Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and even though this is April 1st, I'm not fooling when I say that this is going to be an extremely important episode of Sportslook. We're going to have an in-depth interview with Patrice Caldwell about what's going on with Eastern athletics right now. We'll have a high school spotlight courtesy of Qitana and Scott. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Greyhound baseball opened up a series this past weekend against Oklahoma Christian, came close in a couple of the games, but dropped all three of the contests. Greyhound rodeo competed in the Ranger Rodeo, and Madeline Shower finished third in the go tying. Last but not least, we had track and field competing in the open meet at Texas Tech last weekend, and Neri Grandiz finished first in the 1,500-meter run, and Tamia Smith finished first in the shot put. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear the set and we'll bring in Patrice Caldwell, the president of Eastern New Mexico University, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and an honor and a privilege to bring back to the set of Sportslook Dr. Patrice Caldwell, the president of Eastern New Mexico University. And Dr. Caldwell, will start out with the fact that Eastern is going to have a graduation using an athletic facility, but it's not going to be Greyhound Arena.
It's not. So nice to be with you, Doc. We are delighted to be able to use our beautiful Greyhound Stadium for our graduating seniors and graduate students. We'll be able to put people in the stadium, sit by families, spread them out, put students on the field, and I think it will be a beautiful venue. We plan perfect weather, and on May 15th, we will graduate probably close to 400 students.
And my question is, we had gone to a split schedule for graduations. Are we going to do that, or are we going to just do everybody graduating at the same ceremony?
We'll all be able to graduate together. We have a wonderful plan with physical plant that will space chairs appropriately on the AstroTurf, and rather than splitting up and having families not know whether they're in the morning or the afternoon, we can do everybody together, and I think that will be more fun for students, and then we'll all be there together, and then we'll all go home.
Well, from that, Dr. Caldwell, let's transition to actually specific uses of the facility.
Sure.
One sport that uses Greyhound Stadium is Greyhound football, and we are in the process of trying to hire a new football coach.
We're very excited about this search. It was, of course, over 90 applicants, which shows the strength of the program and the strength of its reputation, the strength of Coach Kelly Lee that he added for so many years to Eastern's tradition. And though we're sorry to lose him to Texas, he left a great legacy, and we're the beneficiaries of that. So the search committee went through very carefully, selected finalists, vetted them carefully, and now we're bringing 3 to campus, the first coming tomorrow. And we want to invite the community to come and meet them. And we certainly think we've got 3 excellent candidates.
I asked you in a theoretical sense when you were my guest earlier, what theoretically do you look for in a head coach? And now it's actually down to brass tacks.
It is.
What are you going to look for? Well,
I've been thinking a lot about that because, of course, I get to speak with each of them. I think every coach has an attitude or a perspective or a philosophy about the student athlete. And if they see both sides of that hyphen, then they belong at Eastern. We're about students, but we're also about that athletic experience that's so enriching for so many students. And we want a coach who appreciates both sides of that, the academic side, but also that love of the sport, that commitment to teammates, that commitment to being coachable, and then being a better person because of that experience. So that's what I would really look for. I think all of our candidates are going to give us a very wonderful opportunity to see great men who have had wonderful careers already and have a lot to add to Eastern's wonderful football tradition.
we hate to prejudge, and that's one of the things as educators we say, don't jump to conclusions and have a basis for coming to the opinions that you do. But if you had to say, would you prefer youthful enthusiasm, seasoned veteran, or is it just going to be whoever really impresses you the most?
It's a wonderful question, because I see many advantages to seasoned veterans. I think sometimes a coach will connect with students regardless of age and regardless, in fact, of experience. So I've seen both work, and I think we've got a range in our finalists, and I look forward to seeing who makes the best case for being our coach.
That's a very good answer. Well, as it turned out, we are looking for a football coach, but we also had a coaching change that took place in terms of softball. And the decision was made to have an interim coach come in. And from what I understand, we have an interim coach in place.
We do have an interim coach. And I have to say, we are an extremely blessed program to be able to just look a little bit to the left or the right and find someone with 4 years of teaching experience, women's softball, and she was willing to help us out. So Dusty Grawak is going to be has already assumed coaching duties. She is experienced, enthusiastic, loves the team, and I think we just have a very good outcome here. The student athletes have been wonderful. They're flexible. They understand that sometimes things happen. You have to let people do what's right for them. And they're working with a new coach as though they've known her their whole lives. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and we're very, very fortunate to have such a talented person be able to step in and help us.
It would seem that expediency would say, let's just take the first person available and just ride out the season. But you don't really impress me as the type of person who's going to entrust young ladies to a person just because they're available. So what was it about Dusty that said, not only is she available, but she's desirable to have as the interim coach?
The experience was just absolutely phenomenal. 4 years and a women's softball team, and fairly recent. So she understands this age group, she understands competition, she understands mid-season competition. I think all of these things just marked her for someone with just an extraordinary ability to step into this opportunity. We certainly could have looked around and contacted other teams and other cities and other contacts that all of the athletic personnel have, but she was right here and known to the students, known to our program, and so it just worked out perfectly. And I'm so happy for the team and also for this opportunity for Miss Grawak. I think she'll have a ball.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Nicely done. Yeah. Your college education wasn't wasted on you. Obviously, it's a little bit early to make a final decision, but do you see opening this up to a national search moving forward, or are you just going to let this season play out and then make that decision?
That's a wonderful question, and ultimately that will be the decision of the athletic director and then the athletic staff. However, our preference at Eastern is to do a national search. And we think our teams deserve it, and we think we can attract a good pool, and we would like to see what's out there and pick the best person for the job. So we will do a national search is my assumption. I'm perfectly happy to be, overruled by the athletic director and staff, but that is going forward, that is our assumption, that we will do a national search, yeah.
Dr. Caldwell, what we're going to do is we're actually going to split this, bifurcate, as the expression goes. See, college was not wasted on me either.
Not at all.
We're both products of the UC system. So
We are.
We're going to divide it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a high school spotlight segment. Then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about another issue facing athletics. So let's send it over to Qitana and Scott for a high school spotlight right now.
Welcome back, sports fans, to the latest edition of High School Spotlight. I'm your co-host, Scott Haas.
And I'm Qitana and
And tonight, we're bringing you the highlights of the final game of the 8-man season between the Fort Sumner Foxes and the Melrose Buffs.
Yeah, Scott, so this game was very anticipated because both of these teams are longtime rivals. I would say it was very competitive throughout the entire 4 quarters, but ultimately, one team came out on top.
That's right, Kiki. Now, why don't we dive into some of those highlights?
Tonight for this ball game. It's been a crazy year and a crazy. Pitch to Lewis. Turns fast, complete to Coronado. And he's down to the. And then passes to. And Gardena tripped up by. Pass is complete. Mark Lewis. He's gonna get it. Break down! Break down! Break down! Touchdown Melrose, taken years. And Bernie around the left side. Bernie's pass complete to Parker Lewis. Lewis down the sideline. Bernie's pass complete to Creed West. And Creed West breaks the tackle. Leaders. 3rd and 5. Here's the play. Creed West. Pass. Touchdown. Pass is complete. It's good. pass. Right. He's gone. Touchdown. First down. Team. It'll be West. Oh, what a man. What a man. He's gone. Touchdown. And Qitana up the middle. And he nearly breaks loose. Come on, Parker. Tackle by. And Qitana. Gets pass off the field. And Qitana's pass. Kearney's pass to West.
That is all the highlights we have for you tonight. Before we throw it back to Doc, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, like our Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more photos, updates, and highlights. Once again, I'm Qitana and Scott.
And I'm Scott Haas, and we'll see you guys next week.
Welcome back to Sportslook. Thanks to Qitana and Scott for that high school spotlight. And we resume our conversation with Patrice Caldwell, the president of Eastern New Mexico University. And Dr. Caldwell, a football search is a task. A softball search in the middle of a season is a task. But you have a very big task that kind of overshadows both of those. The fate of a program at Eastern New Mexico University is in the process of being decided.
Yes, men's soccer. So the context for this decision is very important, and this is a very difficult decision. We never like to end a team. We never like to end an opportunity for students and for fans and for friends of the players. We never like to do that, but sometimes opportunities and circumstances align, and we just have to take a difficult step. As you know, because you've been around athletics your entire life, the cost of running 14 programs is an escalating enterprise. Every year, costs go up, insurance goes up, the cost of transportation goes up. It's a never-ending worry that we can appropriately and properly finance our student athletes the way we wish to. We had an interesting situation in December when our soccer coach received a very lucrative offer to go to a school in Colorado, and it was a good move for him, and he consulted with us fully and then took the job in December. Well, naturally, that had a chilling effect on some of his students. 23 of them were international students, and some of them went home and did not return in spring. And some of them went with the coach to his new position. So we found a much reduced men's soccer team in the spring with no soccer coach, and very difficult to run a search mid-year, especially in soccer. And our decision was to take a long look at the situation with athletics, where we were going, what our financial situation was, could we continue to support 14 teams, and we decided to suspend, put in hiatus men's soccer, and look closely at what we could do with that sport and with all of our sports and with all of our funding. And that's what we have decided to do. We spoke to the students immediately. We kept them fully apprised. All of those students retain their scholarships. They can stay, they can finish their degrees, they can play another sport if they wish, but we are going to suspend men's soccer. Now, some of those students are interested in transferring and playing their last year, or their last 2 years, or whatever they wish to do. The coaching staff has been great in putting their name into a dashboard, which lets other soccer coaches take a look at them and make offers. And if that's what they want to do, we will help them any way we can. If they're international, we have May Reeder. She's our international coordinator, and she will help them make all those arrangements. She'll help them with the paperwork, whatever they need. Everything we can do to make those students completely successful, whether they're here or whether they're at another school, that's what we want to do. But we couldn't in good conscience go forward without taking a long, hard look at where our financial situation was with athletics. And we will convene a committee to do that. It will have community members, campus members, athletes on it, coaches on it. So we'll take a long, hard look at that and make some recommendations to the regents going forward. But we have no other plans to suspend any other teams or any other players down the road. We just want to make the right decision going forward for all of the athletics program.
And if people are curious about men's soccer, we will point out that in its infinite wisdom, and I mean that literally, Congress passed and the president signed an act back in the 1970s that is commonly referred to as Title IX. And you need to be aware of gender equity. And so it couldn't just be any sport. If you're going to cut a sport, it had to be a men's sport.
That's correct. The NCAA and Lone Star Conference are both very strong supporters of Title IX and the equity of opportunity for women and men athletes. Any campus that hosts a football team has a large number of male athletes, and almost always that percent is going to be larger than the percent of your undergraduate male and female population, and that's the NCAA gold standard, that percentage. So we're a little out of whack with that percentage. This brings us more closely in alignment, and of course we're happy for that. Our male athletes are wonderfully supportive of our female athletes, and they of the male athletes. So it is not a competition between the two. It is a mutual support system, and that's the way we want to see it. But the fact is that we are underrepresented in terms of female athletes, and although it's not the way we would want to do it, it does bring us more in balance and in alignment with those preferred percentages from NCAA.
In terms of the putting together the committee, what sort of a timetable are you talking about?
Matt Billings, our athletic director, and I are already talking about people who will be on this committee, and we hope to convene it early in April. So that will give us an opportunity to have some time this semester before students take off, and then work through some of the more tricky financial issues with the business office. So that will be a big partner with this investigation. But it's really important that we include the community in these deliberations to secure their insights and their support for what we're going to do going forward. And I think when all of the facts are laid out, we might get some very creative solutions coming from this committee, and that would make me very happy.
But to point out to people who may not really be thinking about the dollars and cents of this, you can budget all you want, but if the cost of gas goes up as it has in the last few months, that's going to throw your travel budget completely out of whack. And so there are contingencies that you have to take into consideration when you're making decisions.
Absolutely. Like we've had a wonderful series of those during the pandemic too, when we had to put in testing protocols for all of our student athletes. We had not budgeted for that, and I think that's just one example. But the cost of transportation, gas, but also chartering buses. If you're driving 7-hour drives, and you've done this, so you know, you need to have a chartered bus. You cannot just put people in a van and hope for the best. So we're not going to do that for our student athletes, and we're just going to have to find a way to cover those costs. And we will, we can.
Well, Dr. Caldwell, saving the most important question for last here. You have an association with the University of Southern California. You also have an affiliation with the University of California, Los Angeles.
I do.
If they had faced each other in the Final Four, who would you have been pulling for?
For the Final Four, wonderful question, and an easy question. UCLA, of course. The team of John Wooden. Dr. Elder, I'm shocked that you wouldn't just immediately know that's what I would pick. But.
Well, that would have been my guess, but I thought since you were nice enough to be my guest, so I would ask you the question. Well, never in anybody's wildest dreams did we ever see that you'd have to make any of these important decisions, let alone 3 of them. But you're doing a great job. All of us here in this community appreciate what you're doing as president, and so thank you for your good work and good luck seeing us through.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. During the 1971-72 academic year, a group of young ladies, including one girl that I was dating at the time at Northwestern University, decided they wanted to start a women's basketball team for Northwestern University. To its credit, Northwestern University said, yeah, you can start a program. We'll even let you use McGaw Hall, which was the field house for Northwestern University. But then they gave the girls 12 purple T-shirts and 12 pairs of white shorts and said, have silkscreen numbers put on the uniforms. Well, you might think we've come a long way since then, but I would refer you back to the beginning of the NCAA women's basketball tournament when one of the young ladies took footage of the weight room they were provided, compared it to the weight room that the men's teams were provided, and maybe we haven't come as far in 50 years as we'd like to think we have. Well, that is going to conclude an overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guest, Patrice Caldwell. I'd like to thank Qitana and Scott for the high school spotlight. Mr. Zach was my floor director tonight. So for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.